Hello, you are on the Ruslan Belov channel, and this is the daily review of the Ukrainian front. Last night, Trump announced that he is ready to adopt and implement the second stage of pressure on Russia. This includes introducing additional sanctions, and Trump also urges Europe to stop buying oil from Russia. Trump approved the delivery of long-range missiles to Ukraine. And now, I find it interesting when some experts say that Trump sincerely wants a settlement, that Trump sincerely understands Russia's position, and so on. But where exactly is this acceptance and understanding of Russia's position supposed to show? In the delivery of long-range missiles? In the introduction of new sanctions? In what? Very strange. Friends, I ask for a minute of your attention. As always, by tradition, I would like to sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. If you are watching my videos not for the first time and are not subscribed, please subscribe. Your subscription helps the channel grow. Thank you to those who have subscribed, and we continue. Well, the battles continue, and we continue to study the situation at the front. So friends, over the past day, the Russian army advanced simultaneously on 5 sectors of the front, not only in the Donetsk region, but also in the Kharkiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions. But the most notable development is that on the Dobropillia sector, where the Azov units are located, the elite of the armed forces of Ukraine, Russian troops managed to break through by more than 4 kilometers and drive the Azov fighters out of the village of Rubezna. But let's go in order. We will start today from the south, from the Dnipropetrovsk region. Surprisingly, right now the Dnipropetrovsk region has become one of the most dynamic sectors of the front. The Russian army is advancing in this new region on a daily basis. Moreover, slightly to the south, where the front is moving more slowly, in the Zaporizhzhia region, at the junction with the Dnipropetrovsk region, in the area of the village of Temirivka, interesting footage appeared yesterday online. In this footage, Ukrainian soldiers disguised themselves in civilian clothes, took a civilian car, and tried to approach Russian positions pretending to be locals. Russian drone operators spotted them literally 2 kilometers from the line of contact. Naturally, they did not hesitate. They struck, the car burned, and the disguised Ukrainian soldiers were rendered combat ineffective. Returning to the Dnipropetrovsk region. Over the past day, the troops advanced on 2 more sectors here. First, the village of Koroshe was taken under control. It is adjacent to Novoselka. In addition, they advanced 2 kilometers further south of the village and reached the road south of Sosnivka. Sosnivka, in turn, is adjacent to Koroshe. The distance between them is only 550 meters. Now, with the advance further south, as you can see on the map, the village is blocked. And although it is not marked on the map yet, according to the data I have, battles have already begun for the village. The fall of Sosnivka, given the earlier fall of Koroshe, will open the way as far as Oleksiivka. Located 7 kilometers away, you can see on the map, there are no obstacles in the form of settlements on the way. The capture of Oleksiivka, in turn, would mean the encirclement of Velikomikhaylivka from the south. In general, the pace of developments in the Dnipropetrovsk region is impressive. And that is not all. On another sector in the region, they crossed the administrative boundary and advanced 900 meters, blocking Ternov from the north. To be clear, along this boundary there is a very strong fortified defensive line. So when I say crossed the boundary, it does not mean they just ran across casually. No, in this case, it means they broke through a powerful defensive line. Now Ternov is blocked from 3 sides, from the northeast and the south. Battles inside the village will begin very soon, now to the Dobropillia sector, where the Azov fighters received a strong blow. There are 2 points here. First, the line of contact was clarified, and the area that the Russian army had reached at the peak of the August offensive is no longer under Russian control. Russian troops stopped holding it almost immediately after Ukrainian forces transferred reinforcements there, around mid-August. But confirming footage only appeared now, which is why cartographers are only now updating the maps. But another development is much more interesting. Russian troops had already been in Rubezhn at the peak of the earlier breakthrough, but then the armed forces of Ukraine pushed them out. And now, after a month of battles, when the Azov fighters' goal was to completely cut off the salient, the opposite happened. Russian troops advanced from positions near the Hruska River by more than 4 kilometers, entered Rubezna, and expelled the Azov fighters. Incredible, right? Still, I must temper the enthusiasm. In terms of numbers, the advance looks good, but in itself it does not mean much. Let me explain why. The main problem of the Dobropillia sector remains the same. It has a very narrow base. No matter how far they advance northward, as long as the base of the salient is not widened, the Russian army gains little. If Ukrainian forces organize a strong counterattack tomorrow and cut through this area, and the width is only 3.5 kilometers, everything to the north will be encircled. So the situation is very dangerous. The priority must be to widen the base of the breakthrough, not push further north. But so far this task is being solved with great difficulty. They need to capture Kharkiv, but it is not working yet. The village is surrounded by several defensive lines. There are also problems in Volodymyrivka. Ukrainian forces still partially control it, meaning it is in a grey zone. Reports even came yesterday that Ukrainian forces advanced there. It is hard to say how objective the map is right now. We are waiting for additional news and confirmation. So the situation is rather difficult. Although there is progress, the main task, to widen the base of the salient, remains unsolved. Moving on. On the Kostiantynivka sector, there was no news yesterday, but the Lyman direction continues to bring positive updates. This time the news came from the large village of Zarekny. The troops managed to advance into the residential area and significantly expand the control zone, particularly in the central part of the settlement. If measured from east to west, they reached from one edge of the village to the other, a distance of 2.5 kilometers. Footage confirming control was shown, including the raising of a flag. This means the control here is firm. Still, full control of the village is far away. At this moment, Russian troops hold about 1/3, maybe slightly more. Ukrainian forces still control the northern and southern parts. Zarekny is extremely important for further advance toward Lyman because it is large, 5 kilometers in length and 2.5 kilometers in width. It can be used as a base for accumulating forces and resources. In addition, after Zarekny, the road to the northeastern part of the city is open. That is why the battles for Zarekny are fierce, but as you can see, the Russian side is prevailing. Also, there is significant progress on the Siversk sector. In the Serebryanska forest, Ukrainian forces still hold only a small part. Within a couple of weeks, this operation will likely be finished. The Ukrainian resource deep state has also marked most of the forest under Russian control, and Russian troops, according to deep state, are already on the northern outskirts of Siversk. Slightly to the northwest, Russian forces have also appeared near the outskirts of another settlement, Yampil. From there, it is not far to the rear zone of Siversk and the key cities of Donbass, Sloviansk, and Kramatorsk. Ukrainian forces withdrew very experienced units from here and sent them to Pokrovsk, as they did not want to lose that city. But at the same time, they are weakening other areas. The Siversk front is very strongly fortified, so by choosing to reinforce one sector, Ukraine is losing ground elsewhere. The moment may come when the front collapses by 20 to 50 kilometers at once, and then the Ukrainian army will face serious problems. According to US intelligence, this could happen as early as this autumn. Clearly, the Russian army is preparing significant forces for new offensive operations. Moving on to the Kharkiv region, news arrived from a sector that had been silent for about a year, maybe longer. This is in the north of the Kharkiv region, not near Vovchansk, but near Lipsy and Lukyantsy. There was an exchange here, well, an involuntary exchange. Ukrainian forces drove Russian troops out of a tree belt, a small wooded area south of Lukyantsy. In return, Russian troops improved their positions near Hlubok and the village of Lipsy. They advanced south of Hlubok and expanded their control zone by more than 1.5 kilometers, entering the Lyra garden plots located just before the village of Lipsy. Can we say that this previously dead sector has now become active? I think it is too early to say so. We need to see how events develop. It might just be a one-time spike, nothing more. Personally, I lean more toward that explanation. It is hard to imagine regular advances here, since no additional forces will be sent, and with the forces currently available, major progress is unlikely. Also, west of Vovchansk, Russian forces made good progress. A forested area came under their control. We are waiting for confirmation footage from there. In total, over the past day, around 19 square kilometers came under Russian control. To be precise, 18.7 square kilometers. The pace is above average. That is all on the front for now. Let's now turn to the political arena. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico put the European Union in its place over China. He sharply criticized Brussels for reproaching his trip to China. The most absurd thing is that the head of a sovereign government has to justify a visit to a country with a population of 1.5 billion and one of the strongest economies in the world. China is becoming a world leader, and instead of respect, we hear criticism. "Are you out of your mind?" Fico declared. He emphasized that the foundation of China's policy is peace, while Europe is mired in scandals, crises, and economic decline. Everyone lectures about their one-party system. But let's compare. We have democracy, which we are so proud of, but economies are collapsing, crises multiply, scandals are everywhere. Yet we will keep lecturing China. Witkoff left the Coalition of the Willing meeting 20 minutes after it began, according to the Élysée Palace. Apparently, the demands were fantastical and had nothing to do with objective reality. Let us recall that earlier, Bloomberg reported that the coalition against Putin had prepared a paper for Trump in which they presented their proposals for security guarantees. The Europeans want to understand what Washington is really ready to provide in those guarantees. At the same time, they decided to persuade the United States to toughen sanctions against Russia. After all, Putin has no intention of meeting with Zelensky and is concentrating troops near Pokrovsk. According to Zelensky, 100,000 Russian soldiers have already been redeployed there. If Pokrovsk falls, Russia will have an open road to Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. Standing next to Macron, Zelensky called the coalition of the willing merely theoretical for now. And although the European Union surpasses Russia economically, industrially, and technologically, the only encouraging factor is the degradation of the European Union's leadership. The Chinese Foreign Ministry stated that Kaja Kallas is harming the European Union itself and that she lacks even basic historical knowledge. Irresponsible statements by EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas about a supposed challenge to the world order by China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea demonstrate her historical illiteracy and are aimed at fueling confrontation and antagonism. This was stated on September 4th by Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiankun. The remarks of the corresponding EU representative, he said, are full of ideological bias and are not based on even the most basic historical knowledge. They openly incite confrontation and antagonism, said Guo Jiankun. This is extremely wrong and irresponsible. In addition, according to the Chinese diplomat, Kallas shows disrespect for the history of World War II and damages the interests of the European Union itself. After the parade in Beijing, marking the 80th anniversary of the victory in World War II, Kallas launched into loud statements that bordered on hysteria. She accused Chinese President Xi Jinping of challenging the rules-based international system. Moreover, according to Kallas, Xi Jinping placed beside him at the parade the leaders of Russia, Iran, and North Korea, which she called an anti-Western provocation. These are the realities, and Europe must confront them, she added. Meanwhile, 7 members of the opposition party, Alternative for Germany, died in the run-up to the elections. Ahead of the local elections in North Rhine-Westphalia, several members of the German party, Alternative for Germany, passed away, sparking active discussion on social media. A total of 7 deaths were recorded, Welt reported. 1 death was linked to liver disease and subsequent kidney failure, while another was the result of suicide. Law enforcement authorities stated that there is no evidence of criminal involvement in the tragedies. The deceased politicians had advocated for the restoration of the Nord Stream gas pipeline. "What is left here for me to defend?" asks a despairing ethnic German. "Everywhere I hear the phrase, 'we must defend our country.' But what country, really? And is it even our country anymore? 1 million Ukrainians have chosen to settle here. Am I supposed to defend them? 6 million Afghans, Iraqis, Moroccans, Iranians, Tunisians, and others who left their homeland. Am I supposed to defend them? Arabs who call me a kafir and, on our streets, openly call for the destruction of Israel, while politicians and police celebrate it as free speech. Am I supposed to defend them? When I walk my dog in the morning, I hear Arabic, Ukrainian, Turkish, Farsi. German is hardly heard. Is that what I am to defend? Politicians who call me scum, a Nazi, or part of dark Germany, am I supposed to defend them? The Greens, who invent genders, welcome people from all over the world with open arms, constantly change their own identities, and now demand to be addressed as they. They spread climate panic and insult me as a shaggy pacifist. Am I supposed to defend them? The administration, which does nothing but invent regulations to justify its existence. Am I supposed to defend it? Health insurance, which refuses me dental treatment but pays for everything for my neighbor from Ukraine. Am I supposed to defend that? Neighbors on welfare who smoke weed, make noise at night, and sleep during the day, while I get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work. Is that fair? Pension insurance that eats up contributions and in the end pays me only a minimum level. Am I supposed to defend that? Politicians who destroy our industry, squander our taxes all over the world, and leave roads and bridges to decay. Folk festivals that are cancelled for fear of terror, while women and the elderly feel unsafe on the streets. The country I once loved is gone. The black-red-gold flag only reminds me of that. Am I supposed to defend those who call me right-wing, a Nazi, delusional, a climate denier, a lousy German, or a boomer? You know what? I don't care anymore. This has long since ceased to be my country. It's just a place where I pay taxes so that others can live in luxury. There are no hard-working people left in Germany. There is nothing here worth defending anymore. These are the desperate thoughts of many elderly Germans. And that's all for today, dear friends. Thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned.